Okay, so on a parabola, like I said, right now we're going to focus on the non-shifted ones, vertex 0, 0. And so this is just kind of a generic one with A, we'll say A is greater than 0. If it's A is less than 0, well, it opens down. The vertex is 0, 0. Like I said, we also want to find this focus point. And here's how we do that. We can locate this focus, which, you know, our vertex is right here. The focus is, in this case, it's above it. It's kind of always inside the, it's inside the parabola along the axis of symmetry. You know, there's this axis of symmetry that cuts it right down the middle, right? The focus is always located on the axis of symmetry inside the parabola. So here is going to be my focus. We'll just call it right there for now. The way we find that focus is we find this, what's called this P distance. And there's different formulas for it, but here's the one I'd like for you to use. P is that distance from the vertex to the focus. And so in this case, here's how I like for you to find P. P is always located at 1 over 4a. The 4a is in the denominator. 1 over 4a. That's how I'd like for you to find the focus. All right? So if we can calculate that, then that's the P distance, and that gives me that distance to the focus. All right, so let's graph this and find the focus. Y equals negative 2x squared. I mean, we're fairly familiar with graphing these. Now, is this one, which way does this one open? Is this one sideways? This one's not sideways because the sideways ones will have what? X and y squared, right? This is y and x squared. So that's our opening up or down, and so which way does this open? Opens down, okay. So it opens down. And on these, I said we weren't going to use tables, but on the parabolas you kind of need those a little bit, a few points. Let's just do x is negative 1, 0, positive 1. So the y then would be, for x is negative 1, negative 2 times negative 1 squared, which that'll be negative 2 times positive 1, which is negative 2. And then we already know 0, 0, but and then x is positive 1, that gives us negative 2 as well. And so since we know it's a parabola, that's probably enough. If we didn't know what it was, maybe not. But so we know it's 0, 0 vertex. They will probably ask you for that as well. I didn't mention it here, but they probably ask you that vertex. It's not shifted, so it's still 0, 0. And then with the other 2 points, negative 1, negative 2, positive 1, negative 2, yeah, we know it's a parabola, vertex 0, 0. Pretty good idea what that looks like. Now the one other added feature here I'd like for you to find, or they will ask you to find, is the focus. And again, for the parabolas, it's that P, I like for you to say it's P over 1 over 4a. There's different ways of finding it, but for the focus, you do 1 over 4a, which in this case, a is
negative 2.
Negative 2. So the P distance would be 1 over 4 times negative 2. So that's 1 over negative 8, it's negative 1/8. The negative just kind of indicates that it's going to be a down from the vertex. But P is that distance from the vertex to the focus. And so that's not a very big amount. I'm probably going to make it a little more than it is. But so the focus is negative 1/8 down from your vertex. So there's my focus. Now what point would that be? Because that's really what they wanted. 0, negative 1/8, right? X is 0, y is negative 1/8. So yeah, if the vertex 0, 0, this kind of gives you, and it's up or down parabola, this kind of gives you the y value of the vertex. So, all right, good on that? Okay. Well, that was y equals ax squared, and the one, I don't know if they do it or not on this, but the one little tricky thing they might do on that is, say instead we had y plus 2x squared equals 0. Well, the thing you'd want to do there is write it in y equals ax squared form, and so we'd subtract the 2x squared and make it y equals negative 2x squared, and then we can do our stuff with that. So I don't know that I've given you any of those, but could happen. Same thing on this. We want it in this x equals ay squared for various reasons. So yeah, that tells me that's sideways, isn't it? The reason is I've got x's to the first and y is squared instead of vice versa. That tells me it's sideways. Now, guess what? If a is greater than 0, which sideways opening right or opening left, do you think?
Right.
Yeah, it's going to open right. That's if a is greater than 0. If a is less than 0. If this a right here is less than 0, negative, in other words, guess which way that would be? To the left. With me? Okay. All right. So that one works basically the same as right and left, but it's sideways. Up and down, but it's right. Okay, so let's do a couple of there. Oh yeah, okay, sorry. I did have one. Oh, the other good news is the focus, same formula. Or the formula I would like to use is P equals 1 over 4A. Same formula. Now, the one thing I haven't talked about here is where's the axis of symmetry on these? You know, for up and down parabola, it's a vertical axis of symmetry, but on sideways parabola, the axis of symmetry is horizontal. Horizontal. That's our axis of symmetry. If it's centered at 0, 0. The reason I mention that is because the focus is always along that axis of symmetry, and so guess where the focus is here? This P gives me the distance to the focus, but the focus would be inside the parabola, so there would be your focus. This one would be along the axis of symmetry. Same thing here, but it's inside the axis of symmetry, inside the parabola. So there's your focus on that one. So that's what, and P is that distance to the focus from the vertex. All right. Now, so on these I want to graph and find the focus. Number 1, 2x equals y squared. This brings up the first point here on this is I want them in these form. X equals ay squared or y equals ax squared. I want it in that form. That's not quite in that form, is it? Because it's not x equals ay squared. It's 2x. So what's the first thing? Divide by 2. So divide by 2, and that makes it x equals y squared over 2, which is still technically not in x equals a. What's the a there? A is what's times the y squared, so let's make one more little adjustment here. Isn't that 1/2 y squared? because, I mean, on the top, it's 1y squared, the bottom is 2. So if I pulled that out, it'd be 1/2 y squared, yes? So the a is 1/2. With me there? Okay. All right. So again, I didn't mention the vertex, but again, these aren't shifted, so the vertex is 0, 0. Same thing here, since it's not shifted. The vertex is 0, 0. Whoops, that's going to be the table. Which way does this one open? It'd be this one, wouldn't it?
Right.
It's going to open to the right. All right, now, for the table, which values would you say here would be better to pick out as far as this formula goes like this? Wouldn't it be better to pick out the y values? So I'm going to pick, just like I did for the other one, on the first example I did, I'm going to pick the y values though and make them -1, 0, and +1. I mean, you can do more if you want to. But since I know it's a sideways parabola and the vertex is 0, 0, this is going to give me basically all I need. So I'm going to pick the y values instead of the x values. We haven't done that before, I don't believe, other than finding the y and x intercept. But in our table, we're going to do the y values, -1, 0, to +1. All right, and so that makes x here the 1/2 times -1 squared, which that's 1/2 times 1, so that's 1/2. So the x would be 1/2. Of course, 0 is going to give you 0. And then if y is +1, it'd be x is 1/2 times 1 squared. That's, of course, also 1/2. Now, what does that mean as far as the graph goes? Well, that's just going to give me, now, read this correctly, that's x is 1/2, y is -1. X is 1/2, y is -1. Isn't that right there? Fourth quadrant? 0, 0, we already got that. And then this is x is 1/2, y is +1. So that's just right above the other point, because x is 1/2, but y is +1, so that's right up here. That's enough, since I know it's a sideways parabola, opens right, vertex 0, 0. Get some other points if you want. Should be enough. Okay? Look, all right. What about the focus? Well, for the parabolas, it's P equals 1/4a, and that's one of the reasons to get it in that form. So that'd be 1/4 times a is 1/2, so it's 1/4 times 1/2. What's 4 times 1/2? 2. So 4 times 1/2 is 2, so the P distance is 1/2. Now, it's along the axis of symmetry inside the parabola, so where is that?
1/2.
It's right on the x-axis at 1/2, isn't it? So there's my focus. What point is that? What is the actual point?
0.
1/2, 0, yes. So it's not that hard to find, calculate that little P distance there. All right, one more of those, we'll move on to a couple other things. All right, so number 2, graph and find the focus, 3x plus 4y squared equals 0. That's not in the form we want, but right off the bat, I can tell what kind of parabola is it. I can tell it's a parabola because I've got x's to the first, y squared. So I know it's a parabola.
It's a sideways.
It's going to be a sideways because the x is to the first and the y is squared instead of vice versa. So it is a sideways parabola. However, for a sideways parabola, I want x equals ay squared. That's just a lot better form that I can use a lot nicer, a lot more ways, if you will. So let's just solve for x here. Subtract 4y squared. So that's 3x equals negative 4y squared. Divide by 3. X is negative, and let's write it negative 4/3 y squared. So the a is negative 4/3. So which sideways is it, right or left? It's a left sideways, right? So it opens left. It's not shifted, so the vertex is 0, 0. Okay. So again, since it's sideways, I'm going to pick the y values, and the vertex 0, 0. I'm going to pick these y values, get the x values, so x will be negative 4/3 times negative 1 squared, which is just going to be negative 4/3. Or 0, 0. X, y is positive 1. It'd be negative 4/3 times 1 squared, so that's also negative 4/3. Should be enough information there. All right, so where is this point? What quadrant is that point in? Negative 4/3, 1. Well, that's negative 1/3. Negative 1 and 1/3 for the x.
Bottom one.
So there's negative 4/3. And then negative 1, yeah, so it's quadrant 3. Yeah. 0, 0, there's my vertex. And then this is negative 4/3 comma 1, so that would be x is negative 4/3, y is 1. So yeah, that verifies that we do have sideways parabola opening left. Last but not least, we'll find the focus. P distance is 1 over 4a. So that's 1 over 4 times negative 4/3, right? That's my a right there. Which is 1 over negative 16/3, because that's 4 over 1. What's 1 divided by negative 16/3? I mean, you get the decimal of it, but can anybody tell me what fraction that is? Simplified? It's negative 0.1875 if you do it on the calculator.
Negative 3/16.
Huh?
Negative 3/16.
Negative 3/16, why? Besides plugging in your calculator. It's 1 divided by negative 16/3, which is 1 times what? Reciprocal? Negative 3/16. So that's why, yeah, that's negative 3/16. Besides also getting it from your calculator. But anyway, so that's the p distance. Now where is that going to be at? It's along the axis of symmetry. But it's a negative, that also gives it away. It's right in here, isn't it? There's my focus right there. Which is, what point would that be? Negative 0.1875, comma 0, or negative 3/16. Okay? Yes?